The platform wars are to the benefit of the user and the creator. And the only way that we get change is if we demand it.
Welcome back to Heja Framtiden, the Swedish podcast on the future. My name is Christian von Essen. I'm sitting here at Gather Conference, Slakthusområdet in Stockholm. And today I'm sitting here with Liz Hagelthorn. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You did a talk this morning, which I didn't attend, but about memes and monetization. What was the basic concept of your talk?
Thanks so much for not attending. No, I'm just kidding. It was at 9:30 in the morning. The basic talk was about memes and monetization. Most notably, it was about how people make money with memes, the history of memes, the origin of memes, how creators get paid, what the threats are to how creators get paid, how do we make meaningful aesthetic work on the internet, what the centralization of tech platforms has caused for creatives on the internet, and what the future looks like.
Wow. So how did you stumble into this domain to begin with, working with memes?
So as far as like internet culture goes, I first learned about social media, real social media, in 2003 with MySpace.com. I had moved to a new city in California, Northern California, in a small town called Davis. During the first week of school, I came home and found a hate group about me on MySpace.com made by a bunch of girls in my class. So as the new kid, this was obviously devastating. While I was learning about like what social media is, what these profiles are, how these girls are typing in a forum about me, about things that I wore. Of course, I immediately made a Counter-Strike group for all kids who were bullied on MySpace and who were coming onto the platform, who started learning that kids in their class were creating these groups about them. That group surpassed over 100,000 members from all over the world, with pretty much for kids with similar experiences. So that was like when I was about 14 years old, I started creating communities online. I also had done a beauty blog with my mom, for example, before YouTube. So I started learning about creators, how they make money. And then speeding up, I spent 4 years at Twitter. After that, I got recommended for a stealth startup that had come into acquisition of 127 meme pages on Instagram with 300 million followers. My job was to set the creative strategy for all of the pages as well as the network. Some of those pages included girl, comedy, funny memes, the hood clips, hot vocals, foodies, pups. A lot of them were OG usernames. And when I went to the meme network, I really wanted to understand Instagram and how it was different than Twitter. During my time at Twitter, I had also always used opportunities to sort of create humor and skits out of things that happened internally. For example, Twitter had acquired a startup called Niche, and me and the founders made sort of a parody drunk history video, or just different things around the office where I was incorporating humor and the culture of the teams that I worked on. And so that's why I got recommended for the meme network. So it's something that I always love: online communities, incorporating humor and storytelling within very niche subgroups, whether I work somewhere or externally. And I just cultivated into this opportunity where I walked into this startup office in Venice, California, and they're like, "We have these accounts. What would you do with them?" And the catch was no one could know who was behind each account. They were meant to be anonymous. They were supposed to be all pseudonym. So how do you build trust with audiences on Instagram without anyone knowing who's behind the pages?
Wow. So back to the question, how do you actually monetize on memes?
So what you're really monetizing against is audience and impressions and eyeballs. So just like any social media platform monetizes against eyeballs, such as Facebook, Twitter, you're essentially taking the average number of impressions you're getting per month and selling a volume of ads against those in a way that won't hurt your pages or your network. So if we were getting 1.2 billion reach a month, you're selling probably 200 million impressions of ad volume against multiple pages. So you're creating a syndication network of distribution and then selling ad and different creative formats for different audiences on those distribution channels. Not unsimilar to a podcast and listens and getting paid on listens. On the side, throughout the years, I've also been helping startups, celebrities, crypto exchanges, DAOs, and other like kind of new forms of corporations create and grow their pages and set their social strategy.
And does it often come down to, or back to memes, or do you help them with a general social media growth strategy?
Yeah, so basically like what I do is I really try to understand different platforms and what causes virality on those. And then in my head, I pick different audiences that I want to work with. So I'll be like, I really want to understand NFL audiences. And then I'll start asking around, does anyone know any NFL players who have retired that I can work with so I can understand how NFL players, fans treat them and their content after they retire, and what is their life like after they're on the field, and how do they change their narrative. So I'll sort of choose different industries in my head that I want to understand as far as audiences and growing audiences, and then use that as an opportunity to grow their pages and learn like the different platform.
And so you come with suggestions to how they should be tailor making their content to their particular audience.
Oh, yeah, no. I make them like, I do all their social strategy and grow their pages. Like, I'm like, give me your password. I'm going to grow your page. I'm going to test a bunch of different things, scale up your business, scale up your storytelling for social, which platforms you should be on, why, who you're reaching, what are your content pillars.
I mean, now TikTok must be a big part of the whole social media growth strategy for brands and companies. Do you have to work much differently with a platform like TikTok, apart from, for example, Instagram?
Yeah, so I've gotten pretty good at gaming TikTok, but sort of like with TikTok, that, you know, it takes me probably about like 6 to 8 months to really dig into TikTok and figure out the different methods of discovery and what works. And it's constantly changing. TikTok is a lot more like YouTube than any other platform. But I actually talk about it in my talk. You know, 45% of memes on the internet come from TikTok. And then about 35%, I don't want to be wrong on that, but around 35% of memes on the internet come from Twitter. So you have 45% of memes coming from TikTok and about 35% coming from Twitter. So you have your video and audio memes, and then you have your more image-based memes with Twitter. And this has always been true since the dawn of time for the internet. So starting in around 2003, 2004, you had the majority of memes coming from YouTube and 4chan. So like 30% coming from YouTube, maybe 35% coming from 4chan. There was always sort of two dominant platforms where most memes came from. Now, TikTok is really interesting because of the sound-based discovery. So just like a hashtag, where you click a hashtag and you can see all the memes with the hashtag, TikTok allows you to do that with sounds. Yeah. And as you know, you process audio a lot quicker than you do visually. So one of the things that I talk about in my talk today is how one of the big components of memes is really their formats. So memes actually allow people to put their stories in different formats, similar to how a songwriter would tell a story in a song or a rapper would in a hip hop bar. it's a format that basically prompts creativity to fit within.
I assume it must be challenging to create memes for a brand. I would guess that it shines through if it's not authentic or smart and funny enough. Do you see what I mean? I mean, some people asked you in the audience today, as you mentioned, if you could do memes for good and spread good messages and sustainability purposes. But I mean, a really good meme should be kind of dark and twisted and unexpected, right?
Like, what kind of memes do you like? Yeah, like
Exactly.
Yeah, what kind of memes do you like?
I think I like memes that are really stupid or like puns or it's supposed to be really, really low, I think, for me to save a meme.
Like dark.
Well, it doesn't have to be dark, but it has to be so stupid and smart.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I also want to just be clear, like, building brand memes isn't like my live stream. I grow, I sort of specialize in viral organic storytelling. So I'm constantly growing pages, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, around different themes. As far as whether for a brand and like keeping it clean, compared to like typical marketing assets, like if you're a brand and you're trying to activate like a meme strategy and you're wondering, is this even worth it? There's a 60% higher engagement on memes than a typical marketing asset on the internet. And I believe it's about a 19% click-through rate versus an average of 6% click-through. Now, if it's a really, really good meme, usually the click-through rate's more like 150% on memes. Also, there's a study that said Gen Z says they're 60% more likely to buy from a brand who uses memes as part of their strategy. I think really what it is the ability to reach new audiences using formats that are easily able to be remixed. So memes kind of like are able to spread and pierce the algorithm a lot better than just a branded marketing asset showing off a product. Now you still need both, but you're able to go out and plant seeds with memes a lot quicker, a lot low quality production, a lot cheaper than you would with like high quality commercial shoot, like a Super Bowl commercial. You know how expensive those are. So memes are great ways to plant seeds, not go out and hunt.
Do you have a secret recipe? Of course, people ask you this. No, but what kind of content is working the best on, for example, TikTok at the moment, would you say?
I go back and forth. So first, there's three things that make a great meme. One is the format. What's the format? Is it a sound like on TikTok? Is it an image like you see on Instagram? Is it a video? The second is what's the content. Usually that relates to who the copyright holder is. Is it from a television show? What are the objects? What are the characters doing in the actual asset? And then the third is the message. What's the point of view of the person making the meme? Is it clear? What are they saying? Who are the other roles that are being objectified or shown in the meme? How are those all relating to each other? Those three things mixed together, the format, the content, and the message, are sort of my three pillars that I go by. Now, the format is really like the sort of IP of the whole thing. That's what you see spread, and probably the most important. Easy formats will take you super far. Probably the other biggest thing is timing. It's all about timing. Like, people have to be looking for that content around big cultural moments. So like COVID-19, the pandemic, that was a global cultural moment that everyone experienced on this earth, for example. Other times you have more subculture groups around different, goth kids, right? Like goth memes, or like soup memes. So there's this whole movement and surreal memes, surrealist memes, where you kind of look at the meme and you're not quite sure what it means, but it actually has like a deeper meaning. So with surreal memes, there's a lot of different characters. One of the characters is the fridge, and like the fridge is very powerful because he dispenses the cubes, and like they just have these kind of different characters that they play off of each other. Specifically with surreal memes, they use a ton of soup. And like I have different theories of why they use soup, but if you've ever eaten soup, it's a very meditative experience. Like you can't, drive and eat soup. You have to sit still and like consume it slowly because it's also like super hot, so you don't want to burn yourself. And it forces you to be present while you're eating and consuming, which is like one of my favorite things about soup memes. It's also just silly. The other thing is like the use of skeletons in memes, like the skeleton character, for example, which is, of course, a reminder that you're going to die, I'm going to die, we're all going to die. And are you living the life that you want to live? Usually you'll see skeletons waiting around. You'll see them in the office. You'll see them used like for different symbolism to try to remind the viewer that are you living the life you want to live?
And I think it's interesting because when you talk about humor, because memes are, in my view, often humorous in a way. Many comedians now complain that they can't joke about the things that they used to joke about because people are so politically correct or woke or whatever. Are memes a good way to sort of test the boundaries of our time, do you think? How far you can go?
Memes are really the language of the internet. So they are able to emotionally enhance stories in text in the same way like an emoji would. So emojis emotionally enhance our text, for example, like in a way that more text wouldn't. Memes do that for stories and messaging and ideologies. So think of memes as ability to sort of enhance those in a really quick, easy way that's fighting for your attention. Really good memes act like good genes. That's from Richard Dawkins, but they're replicators. And instead of randomly replicating like a gene would, memes replicate based off of the remix of human creativity. So like survival of the fittest for a meme means memes that resonate with the most people, that get the most attention. So really what memes are able to show us is if you can understand the science of why a certain meme is trending or different patterns, you can really understand the science around cultural behavior, language, what people care about, what's getting attention and why. And then you can start to dissect those different variables and also especially different geographies and try to figure out what's going on.
It's also like a secret language that you know that this particular meme will only be understood by people who have the same kind of understanding or are part of the same subculture as I am. Mm-hmm. So that's also sort of identification tool in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they can also be used as like instruments to create different like tribalism of common interest. For example, you'll see a lot of memes, especially on Instagram. This is like a low-hanging fruit one where it's like 10 different fast food restaurants. It says you can only choose 2. Or it's, 10 different iconic pieces of art. And it's like you can only choose 3. And in the comments, of course, everyone's sounding off. So it like kind of creates these different tribalisms of interest in the prompt that is like participatory, where it's causing the viewer to like start a conversation because otherwise we wouldn't be interacting with each other. We don't know we're online. We don't know that you follow that account and I follow this account. I mean, it's really about like the comment section too. So does the meme like prompt a response? Does it prompt a remix of the original version, or does it prompt a comment conversation where you can kind of sound off or gamify the content in some way? It's causing participation that we so badly need.
And I mean, going back to your early days at MySpace, where you had the bullies and you had the the counter bully group or the community for the bullied. And now things are moving in a very fast pace. But do you still see that you have these both kind of realities online still? I mean, you have the terrible hate speech and the closed groups that are becoming more and more radicalized in a way. But you also have this amazing opportunity to create deep connections in a community. I don't know what my question is, but do you see that development still going on online?
Yeah, there's definitely studies on this, but one thing is like computers and algorithms like can't tell if you hate or love something. And usually we spend more time on the things that we hate than the things that we love, right? Because we're like, wait, hold on, what is this? So I will say that part is typically we spend like even a slightly, if it's 1/4 of a second longer on something that we don't like, because we're like, how can they think that, right? Even that thought is longer. And that adds to the algorithms thinking that you like it more, so it wants to serve more to you. There's definitely...
Oh, this is terrible. I need to share it.
Yeah. Or like, wait, I can't believe they think that. What are people saying in the comments? Do other people think this, or do they think what I think? And so your curiosity is sort of triggered there. That's one way. So being able to train your algorithm is really important. If you don't like something, flag it that you don't like it. If you want to see more of a certain type of content, you need to train your algorithm more to serve you what you want. That's one thing. The second is, obviously, algorithms serve us content based off of our engagement, what we liked, what we spent time on before. What this means is when you think of social media, you used to think of like, oh, I could connect with all these ideas, new people, right? There was this promise of the internet, promise of expansion of global consciousness, if you will. But what I kind of see happening is in a similar way when, let's say, you're ordering new dishware or new bed sheets, and all of a sudden, all around the internet, these bed sheets and dishes or similar items are following you on every other website. So you're
forever.
Right? And it's all of a sudden this lack of diversity in products that you end up seeing. So imagine that for memes and ideas as well. So if you start to like a certain format of a meme or popular meme, the algorithm is going to say, oh, they like this format of a meme. I'm going to serve them 10 more of these so they can see different variations. And you can see how over time that creates one, confirmation bias, and two, echo chambers. And what happens in those echo chambers is different polarities of extremes, as we talked about in like the first part. And that's more like why I think algorithms have taken over our human capacity of taste, like to like things and not understand why we like them. There's an element of surprise there. And we're not getting the novelty that the internet was founded on. Like the internet is really about discovering the new, creating the new, but you can't really do that if the discovery mechanisms are just serving you the same thing that you see over and over. And you see that in products and you see it in content and ideas.
Yeah, so we all have a responsibility for what we actually get served on our platters. What is your best tip for making the world a better place in the future?
Yeah, I think as far as a better place, what I think about is creating meaningful aesthetic work and a place for storytellers to thrive. You know, I think for a long time, builders, tech platforms, and the centralization of tech platforms has put the power of the distribution of information in the hands of a few central players who have exploited our digital lives for $134 billion in revenue per year. Now, that is not allowing innovation for a healthy economy. It doesn't allow other players to come in, have competition, give us more tools and business models that we can work from. There's really a monopolization there. But at the same time, the platforms are in love with us. They're obsessed with us. They track everything we do. They care exactly where we're going. They want to know how much time we're spending on TikTok. They're obsessed with knowing what YouTube is up to on the monetization front. They want to know what Reels is doing. I mean, the platform wars are to the benefit of the user and the creator. And the only way that we get change is if we demand it. Some of those changes might be advertising revenue shares or protection or content portability. Like the fact that we have to upload a photo across all platforms and different aspect ratios for different formats, different captions is insane. I think especially for one person, one human. And then different things like that as they come up. And then the second is alternatives to advertising business models where things are free for us, but at the expense of platforms and other internet companies making money from advertisements. I mean, just having alternative options can go a long way. So there are 50 million creators in the world. 2 million of those are full-time. Those 2 million, 75% of that income is coming from brand deals. Imagine the creativity that could be done if they didn't have to worry about paying their bills by making ads, right? Have you ever heard the saying like life imitates art? But all the art we see is ads. We see 10,000 ads a day on average. So if all we're seeing is ads, all we're creating is ads for ourselves, which is not meaningful aesthetic work, nor is that like stories and formats and moving us along.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a rant.
Great rant. Do you have a book tip or a podcast tip? You run a podcast.
I did about 5 episodes, but I've recorded like 15. A book tip or a podcast tip?
And your podcast is called Girl Gone Viral.
Yeah, Girl Gone Viral after the page Girl. But Ted has a podcast, and they did an episode with Jane McGonigal. And Jane is a future forecaster, and it's called How to Predict the Future. And basically what Jane did was she created a simulated social network back in, I believe, 2010. And she had, something like 15,000 or so participants on this simulated social network, pretending that it was the year 2020. So what she asked participants to do was basically pretend that it was in 2020 and see what kind of predictions people could make about the year 2020. I don't want to give like a spoiler away, like alert away or anything, but yeah, you should listen to that episode. It blew my mind as far as like what we feel in our gut, what our bodies inherently know when prompted correctly, what we can prepare for, and how future forecasters sort of prompt like simulated social networks in that way.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. Who do you think I should interview? Jane McGonigal.
Jane McGonigal for sure. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Based on this conversation, how have I changed your thoughts about the future and your podcast?
Well, I have become even more certain that I'm doing the right thing, creating a freely distributed platform of knowledge without succumbing to stupid ads all the time.
Mm-hmm. But don't you feel like discovery for podcasts is so hard?
Growing a podcast organic is very, very difficult.
Very hard. Yeah, one of the hardest, I think.
You can't use any of your tricks.
No, you have to go on other people's podcast and have them like you in order to listen to yours. Like, it's the worst.
You have to steal people's phones and follow your own podcast.
Yeah, you have to rate yourself 5 stars and hopefully someone will care. Okay, I like a few people. Anne Lamott, she's a writer. She was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. I'd also say somebody who would be interesting. I want to give you a good answer. I mean, here's the thing. The people who give the best interviews to me are people who are willing to like open up and give you tea and give you like more information than they might otherwise. I think like those people who are closest to you, maybe like your mom, like, you know what I mean? Like kind of talk about life. Those are always like amazing interviews. There's a podcast, Duncan Trussell. He did an interview with his mom that they turned into a Netflix series called Midnight Gospel. Mm-hmm. The very last episode, Mouse of Silver of season 1, is an animated episode of a podcast interview with Duncan's mom, him and his mom. And they talk about the meaning of life, the cycle from birth to death, and ultimately dealing with grief. And it's a cult classic. It's one of my favorite pieces of content. And I think those are like kind of the guests that are personal to you and shape who you are and like throughout the conversations. And then of course you have like Banksy, like would be cool.
Yeah, do you have his number?
Yeah, we could just like DM him.
Or her.
Yeah, or her. Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Liz Hagelthorn, for joining my podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you have to tell people I had 0 time to prep for this.
No, me neither.
They stopped me in the hallway.
Yeah, me too. How can we follow you online?
You can follow me at Liz Hagelthorn in the show notes on Twitter, Instagram, and Girl Gone Viral on Spotify, Apple. I'll be sure to edit those other episodes soon.
They're up soon. I can. I'm certain of that. Thank you so much for joining me. We're recording from Gather conference in Stockholm. My name is Christian von Essen, and the podcast is called Heja Framtiden. You can check it out at hejaframtiden.se for more information about all the other guests and my books and magazines and lectures and stuff. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks you. Bye. Talk.
Talk.
Talk. Bye.